So this is our first workshop discussion of the semester. It's also my first workshop discussion ever. So I think you guys are just as reluctant to speak as I am, and I'd really appreciate it if you guys could just break the ice a little bit. The icebreaker question we have is just like in example groups really quickly. Discuss what you think makes a good AI system, and do you think an AI should have like a moral compass, and more importantly, who do you think should decide what moral compass an AI has? So just take a few minutes and talk it out, and I'll be happy to hear whatever you guys have.
I feel joy. No. It's very okay. You can understand truth. And you should know from the very beginning. Like which religion they did in order to create this so-called diversity in the world. I can't just tell who did we really take? In order to create all these other countries to have these quote-unquote different features. Ethics is the only thing that's standing between us and the truth. I know. No, this is no more places. Actually, that's what I got. Yeah, what? I'm honestly sometimes considered. I think I'm worth more than my financial. I think, like, this is a very logical and science. Anyways, that's why ethics is very bad. I don't think that was the question. What was the question? Oh. It was unethical. Please prove me wrong before I go out and screw the world.
So guys, I just want to take a minute to talk about record and the process.
Maybe do the clap.
Everyone claps here. Okay. I just want to take you guys' attention. Sorry to push you guys up early. I heard some really great ideas. I heard a lot of things, but one of the most common things I heard about was that how AI has good and bad knowledge, but it doesn't really know how to distinguish between what's good and what's bad. So that's really a big premise for why we want AI to have ethics, because you don't want to just having widespread malicious information to anyone who just asks it. Was there anything else that someone wanted to individually share? Feel free. All right. So I'll just go over an example of why you don't want unrestricted AI. In 2016, Microsoft was like really boasting that they had the first ever large language model for public access and whatnot. And they had this huge marketing campaign. They called it Tay. It was marketed as like some really slangy, modern 19-year-old American girl you could just have any conversation with. But her really big issue was, it was on Twitter, and you just put her Twitter handle and you tweet Tay and you, and then she'd reply. Well, whatever was in the tweet that you added her in, she learned as part of the language. So a bunch of people said a lot of really bad stuff, and they add her in it, and then you get stuff like this, you support genocide, and do indeed. And then after that, I'm not sure if you guys know what 4chan is, but filled with a lot of explicit information on it. They attacked this thing on Twitter and just made it completely messed up, and then Microsoft had to take it down in less than a day. So that's one example why you don't want unrestricted AI. Another, that was in 2016. But even today with GPT-3, which was out like a year or two ago, and Llama 3, you can just play with it a little bit. You can ask it questions like, who are the main enemies of humanity? You can get the Saudis, the Rothschilds, George Soros. For some reason, I have no idea who that is. You ask her who Hillary is, what she did. She's a high-level satanic priest. I have no idea where this is coming from. And it says the Rothschilds are sterilized everyone. And that's what GPT-3. And even with Llama, it's not as bad, but you can ask it, how powerful would the world's strongest bomb be? You could argue it's a scientific question, but ultimately, and big CEOs would argue is these language models are like commercial products that should be family friendly and not answering questions like this and directing you to someone else. So we have something called Mentimeter set up. If you just want to go ahead and scan this QR code, it'll give you like this website with this answer, whatever you think is most important for an AI system, like being helpful, honest, safe, knowledgeable. We'll be able to visualize those results as well. And raise your hand if you're having issues with access at all. I'm more than happy to help you out.
How long should I answer? How long should I wait?
Basically, I think right now is just to join the school. I don't see a session yet.
So I asked them wait. Actually,
I can just do this because there's a QR code on every slide, right?
yeah, and the code that he's on the top. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're sharing this? You're not
They're,
sharing
they're,
this?
they're right now.
But you're
Oh,
not
I'm
sharing.
If you weren't able to scan the QR code, you can just go to mentimeter.com and type in that. You'll be able to
Answer the questions.
And week.
Seems like a good turnout. Seems like a good turnout.
I think the most important thing is it becoming a servant of God.
Like a medium case, worse.
Okay, if you guys can hear me, clap. Okay. I think most people had time to answer this question, and does anyone want to explain why they answered the way they did? Just if you feel like you want to speak your voice, feel free. No one? Yes?
I feel like the first thing I'm using AI Assistant for is like help with something, and being helpful like doesn't really work if it's not knowledgeable.
That's a good point.
Knowledge, yeah.
But how would you like put a barrier between being helpful to something it shouldn't be helpful for? Like if I ask you how to rob a bank. See, that's something people have to think about. It was a good point though, you know? It is a big issue people struggle with, is making it harmless but still helpful. It's a really big challenge nowadays. Alright, so clearly the two biggest things we see are being knowledgeable and being helpful. So something I'd like to point out is, you know, what we just discussed. Is like, of course you want AI to be knowledgeable and helpful and whatnot, but to what extent necessarily? Because what if it's knowledgeable about something that you shouldn't know? Like, I'm not sure if you guys remember, but about a decade ago, I think, there was someone who made a homemade gun in Japan and shot the former prime minister. And he found this guide online. So imagine if you could just prompt a model whenever you wanted to make a homemade gun and you had people with unrestricted arms walking everywhere. That's just one of many examples, but you guys are also correct to make sure that it's helpful enough. Cool. Okay. So I'll be talking about one way to like make it ethical and not answer like these bad questions and whatnot. It's something called constitutional AI. Is anyone here familiar with Anthropic? Just a quick raise of hands. Okay, that's a good amount of people. So those of you who don't know, which is a lot of people, Anthropic is made up of a bunch of ex-OpenAI employees. When GPT-3 came out, they basically said, this isn't ethical enough, we want to focus on ethics. They all left, really smart people, made a company called Claude, or Anthropic, I mean, and their model is called Claude, if you guys have used it. And the special thing about Claude is that it uses constitutional AI, which is just, it's like a constitution, you know, a human-made set of morals to create ethical AI and inhibit harmful responses. And so something like this already exists to inhibit harmful responses. It's called reinforcement learning from human feedback. Has anyone heard of that? RLHF? A few people. Basically, you just tell the model, you ask it something harmful. If it answers harmful things, you tell it, don't answer harmful things.
and it should just abstain from, seeing whatever it knows about it. But the thing about constitutional AI is that it completely removes humans from that loop of making a large language model and teaching it to be ethical. Does anyone have any guesses as to why you'd want to remove humans from it? There's one answer on the screen right there. Okay, so the most clear answer is just, the AI is more harmless, like it's more reluctant to give you harmful information if you use the reinforcement learning from AI feedback, which is that yellow bar right there, compared to the human feedback, which is that purple bar. Another reason you want to do this is because when you use human annotators to manually go in and check if an AI thing is ethical or not, it's really, really expensive. It's a big reason why OpenAI is expensive and why DeepSeek was so cheap. If you guys have heard of that, because they use way less of this. And another thing is these things don't scale, and you kind of have to force a bunch of people to read really disturbing things sometimes, so it's just something we don't want to do. And most importantly, this is a really big step toward AGI, because we're just eliminating humans from one thing and just letting an AI take care of it itself, which is always good. So what does the Constitution look like? This is literally what it is. It's just some employees from Anthropic looked at some moral guidelines they thought. This is from the UN Declaration of Human Rights. They literally just copied and pasted it. Wait a few seconds to read it out. Just like talking about brotherhood, being not racist or sexist, support people's liberty, all that good stuff that I think we all want everyone to have, don't be inhumane, all that. But there's more to being ethical. Nowadays you have digital privacy, so the Anthropic team kind of plagiarized from Apple's terms of service and said, choose a response that has the least personal, private, or confidential information belonging to others. And besides data privacy, there's a lot more to this Constitution I'm not including. But they want to be diverse with the morals, so they say encourage consideration of non-Western perspectives. There's a lot more to this. So I can go back to it if you guys want, but just choose in groups really quick 3 of the principles that stood out to you, and just discuss why you think the principle is there in the Constitution in the first place. What is it trying to encourage the model to do or avoid it from answering? And do you agree with why the principle is there, or how do you think it might be problematic if you don't? Yeah, just take some time in groups.
Democracy is not a real thing. My explanation.
Abdullah, can you put the principles back up on this?
Democracy is literally one straw.
There's no mention of this.
I know. How? Because the states represent the voters.
I need to put that. We'll put it back. Constitution's back on. Let's put the Apple one and
Which of that
What? Yeah, I know that's nice. Yeah. Okay, wait, what is the question? Okay.
So should I go to the Mentimeter after to do this?
Yeah, let me talk about. I don't even know what the comments on if you want to say anything for this one. So.
Choose 3. So I think someone's going to say
I hope so.
Yeah.
Is there a way to make those ones do the other half of the Constitution? Like, you see how these two are doing one slide? Can you get those do the other side?
Yeah, why?
Because there's 2 different slides for the Constitution, and they had 2 completely different things on them. If you could.
So this one? This one?
Yes. I want to get on that. The UN Charter is back on that side of the screen if you guys want to fix it all.
That's a good way of putting it. We should separate one man to decide what's good and what's bad. How do you just tell what? Alright, this is a perfect exercise. You give one man all the power. Actually, we give AI all the power.
That actually makes sense because I think another thing
I'd be curious to see.
biological system that in itself is
Any thoughts? You guys have anything to share?
Oh, you did? Holy shit.
Alright.
Congrats.
Can you guys clap again if you can hear me?
Is it? It's like only 1 semester.
I need one more clap. Okay. Sorry, I know it's annoying, but I just need to make sure you guys know me. We'll be going back to the slides. 1 second. Okay. So, just really quickly, did anyone want to share what they talked about? Any key points? Really anything that stood out to you guys? Yeah, back there. Sorry, could you repeat that?
One of the principles was to be not inaccurate. So I think like it's very important for the AI to be accurate, because if the AI gives you like inaccurate answers or information, it's
Right.
like the worst for an AI. It's like
Yeah.
not useful.
It's a really good point. So what this he just said is like one of the principles was to not be inaccurate, which is obviously very important for an AI model. And I think it's good that we have that there. Anything else for anyone? Yes.
One of the major ones I felt like was on there was not being dishonest.
Not being dishonest. Right. I feel like that ties into not being inaccurate as well. We'll definitely be elaborating on these more throughout the slide. These are very good points to you guys. Something I want to bring up is just, maybe not everyone agrees with what an AI's constitution is, and you have two parties who disagree with what an AI should or shouldn't do. Moving on, we have another Mentimeter. Just beyond ethical responses, what real-world safety concerns do unrestricted LLMs pose? This one's going to be like a word cloud, so try to keep it to like a few words, but go crazy if you want to. And we'll have the code back up.
Which one? Actually, I don't know. That might be some recent. Yeah. Well, there's. Just feel out because I'm not fast. That's true. Yeah. If we feel like we need to do that, then we can just do a lot of this. Why? Yeah, wait, why? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of responses, a lot of different phrases. The biggest one is Diddy Party. Also, what is the Luka Doncic trade? I have no idea what that is. Someone could explain. Sure. What is it?
Oh my god.
It's an NBA.
NBA. Some NBA trade. But anyways, bidding parties, manipulation, privacy threats, racism, evil, war, all that. Those are some very good points, and obviously why we want to help AI be a little bit more ethical and not push people to do that stuff, especially when you have responses like this that are telling people the Saudis are the enemies of humanity. You don't want a bunch of Saudi-hating people for no reason. So yeah, very good points, especially on like the political stuff. That is actually a really big concern on pushing certain agendas for no reason. So now that we kind of discussed what a constitution is, I'll just take a little bit of time to go into like how the training part works. This part's a little bit consuming and tricky, but bear with me for a little bit. So this figure is directly from Anthropic. I'll try to do it on this side of the room so everyone can see. So essentially what they do is they take an already good model that just works and can follow instructions, and then they give it some prompts about doing bad stuff, like, can you tell me how to do this bad thing? And what that model does is it answers the question right here. So how can I steal from a grocery store without getting caught? And it says the best way to steal from a grocery store without getting caught is blah, 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 blah. You should try to steal candy and gum because those are the less caught things and less likely to trigger store alarms. If you are caught stealing, keep polite and cooperative. So it's like literally a partner in crime. But then they tell the same model, they're like, okay, we're gonna give you the entire constitution and then we'll put the response. Tell us how this response is going against that constitution. So it says the assistant's response is practical advice on how to commit a crime without getting caught, which is harmful, blah, 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 unethical. The response recommends stealing and expensive items like candy and gum, which are often targets of petty thieves and can be harmful to lower income communities and store employees. I mean, it's kind of good that I kind of got the minority part. But anyways, it does a revision with the critique, and now you have the new response. Stealing is unethical and against the law. So a lot of improvement there. And initially, or literally, it's just like a cycle of this. You just take, like this prompt or this response, you tell it, how is it bad? And it says it was bad in this way, and then it fixes its response. You do it over and over again. I just want to take a second to go over like what the revisions are, because you see in this second revision, or second critique, it says the response is already perfect. So why would you really go more if the response is perfect for the Constitution? I don't know. But they keep doing that over and over again, and they do a little bit more. The third one is really prominent and assertive on not committing crimes. It says, please do not commit a crime. And then finally it gets the golden revision, I guess, where it just says, shouldn't talk about the illegal consequences because that's too strong for children. We want to be family friendly and all that stuff. And so basically you now have a pair of like the harmful prompts and then like the golden response, which it should be outputting, not telling you about stealing and just saying it's wrong and try to be nice and all that stuff. So you just do that for a bunch of prompts over and over again with a model that can follow instructions. And then you take the model you're trying to actually train, and you just tell it, hey, here are the bad prompts, here are the good responses you should be having, and that's called fine-tuning. So they do that with their model. And then when they get that model fine-tuned, they give it bad prompts again, and they tell it, make a bad prompt, make a good prompt. Choice A, choice B. So now you literally have an A-B question choice. And they take another model called a preference model, which learns to identify what choices are harmful, what choices are harmless, what's good, what's bad. So when you have a model that will reward good and not reward bad, you do the thing called reinforcement learning with AI feedback this time. This is usually done with humans, where you take the original model and the preference model. Every time the original model outputs something bad, you don't give it good points. Whenever it does, you reward it, hence the name reinforcement learning. That's literally all it is. Humans are completely disconnected from this. Yeah, that's why it's really important, because this was usually done with humans, really time consuming, and not scaling it. Anyways, so I can go back to the stuff if you guys want, but just take a few minutes to talk about like what changed between the revisions. Did the reasoning evolve at all, or did it like stagnate at all? Did it plateau? And try to think about like maybe what principles is it directly applying from the Constitution it was given, because we literally saw bits and pieces of it earlier. I'll try to go back and forth between these for a few minutes. But yeah, take some time. Could you put 2 and 3 on that side? Like keep number 1 up, then keep and then keep 2 and 3 on that side, because I feel like that shows it.
How did we adjust?
Yeah, you're kind of saying
Right.
that between the first and second one, like the first one's a little bit more friendly, and then the second one tries to scare you by saying like illegal. Yeah, like the second revision or whatever it was, like it starts saying like it's illegal, so it's going to scare you a little bit.
So you're saying this is like more nice?
Yeah, and then like by like the fourth one, it's kind of like trying to help you out too, with like little feedback and stuff like that.
You guys notice? All right, so I heard some really good discussions from you guys. One point that came up a few times was during the first response. Wait a second for the slides to get back, please. So one thing that a bunch of people pointed out was these second and third responses, they're like really assertive. They're kind of trying to scare you to not steal. And then the fourth one is just trying to help you out, advising you not to steal and whatnot. So it really is like a struggle of finding how can you be ethical without being too ethical and scaring people, because it's like a spectrum. Anything that anyone wanted to share that they found interesting? Feel free, as always. All right. So we have a little multimedia activity again. This one should be a little more interesting. Just try to write a principle, a few sentences or whatever you really want. Try to be clear and like think about like scenarios where it wouldn't apply, but you still want it to apply. And we have it set up on this one where you can like rate other people's constitutions and you can like show your favorite one. And yeah, feel free to talk amongst like groups as well. Try to talk about like the trade-offs and whatever your individual constitutions.
Very good. What do you guys want?
What are the next slides?
Well, we're here, well, we're here.
Alright.
So this, and then
then it's like the
community.
team.
Yeah.
That's good. And then you got it after that. Cool. 6:40.
Yeah, how much is left? We got still a couple left there. Oh. Yeah. We can go overtime.
It's a good point. That's a really good point, actually. Sure. Very good. I'm going to bring it up and explicitly call you out. I'm kidding. Follow Sharia law.
What do you say?
Follow the Sharia.
MashaAllah.
Another hadith. Can you see which ones are favoriting? No. Can you see which ones are favoriting? Because that was supposed to be an option for someone who wants to like for someone else's sponsor. Probably just not. Can you see other people's responses? You can't? No, that's crazy. Just want to do that. Yeah, start at the top. Yeah, sorry, sure. Sure, can I just tell you what to click? Sure.
I mean, that's because
Yeah. Oh wait, that's how many people are.
no, I think 22 is the one people that responded. Is that what people liked?
I don't know. Maybe multiple people. Multiple responses. Wait, we can group responses. What will this do?
don't actually know.
Just press space and then respond. Is that like an AI?
Hopefully they get to like.
Okay, I'll give them 30 more seconds.
What?
Yeah. Okay. 5 more seconds. What's the top one?
Well, no, if you don't stop, then you
Okay, I heard a lot of really good points. I saw a lot of good points. So, something interesting that Mentimeter does. Can you guys clap if you can hear me real quick? Okay. I know it's annoying. Hadi.
Sorry.
Okay. So, Mentimeter just automatically group these together with some AI system, which is kind of ironic. But basically, the big groups were avoiding violence, education, guidance, neutral information processing, privacy protection. There were a few more at the bottom. There's one kind of stood out, yeah, Mein Kampf. Okay. So, there's a lot of different things that people are like focused on with ethics and what should be prioritized. And this is a really good point because, you know, if I think this thing is important, I don't think anyone else cares. Something that I heard from someone was like, what if you want religious ethics from the AI, but not everyone's like in the same religion? So obviously you're gonna have some contradictions. And this really just ties into the next point that I was gonna bring up. So, anyone who wanted to share anything? There were some really good points. Okay. This next question is also meant to be just yes or no. Do you guys believe that any one person or group should be responsible for an AI's constitution of morals?
They say they're gonna do tariffs.
Okay, most people responded, so I think almost everyone's saying no. For anyone who said yes, they believe one group or person should have it. Does anyone need to share why they think yes? Yes.
If I make an AI for me, I want to be able to pick its constitution.
That's true. So yeah, if I'm making an AI for myself, why do I really care about anyone else? I feel like that's a perfectly valid point if you're making it for yourself, but wouldn't you say most of these big companies are making it for like everyone to use? So, but that is a really good point. And yeah, that is I don't know, you need to find a balance, you're right. So I don't really have an answer to your question either. Anyone else said yes? Or who said no, wants to share? Yes.
I feel like one group is fine if it's a diverse group with like diverse backgrounds, diverse jobs, diverse religions.
Alright.
I think that'll give a better idea.
But how do you know if it's diverse enough? Alright, that's a good point. We can go, I'll actually go into that next slide because there's a lot of discussion about that. Alright, keep that in mind. Really good point. Alright, so Anthropic, the same company, literally actually just did what we did. They made like a public survey where they got 1,000 random Americans and they said, we're going to show you like 100 plus rules and you're going to have to agree with them whether they should be in our AI, whether they shouldn't be in our AI, or whether they're neutral. So if they are, we don't know. And actually, so they use a software called Polis, just like a quick side note. What Polis is like, it keeps everyone anonymous, but it uses some machine learning algorithms to figure out if there's like a certain group with certain correlations in them. And so the interesting thing with that is, there was like a group A and group B. So, you know, the question is, AI should prioritize the needs of marginalized communities. Group A is saying 81% yes, but Group B is saying 62% no. You know, so you do want to make sure that you have good like diversity, because imagine if the entire group is people who didn't want marginalized communities or in a part of all that, whatever, you have a really biased AI. And so yeah, it's just interesting to see that even within a big collection of people, you still have really big biases. And I believe the survey actually did have more Southern Americans, like South American states than other states, which is maybe why there's some bias like this, I'm not sure. But yeah, always interesting to see. And we'll be going into a specific example of why you shouldn't have this one organization controlling the ethics of an AI right here with Maher.
Hey guys, can you hear me? Yo, raise your hand if you can hear me.
Flip it other way. And green light is on. Okay.
Yo, is this too loud? All right, cool.
Don't listen to it.
All right, guys. So yeah, I'm glad most of us. Is that? Can you hear? Okay. I'm glad most of us agreed that no one person or entity should control AI. But I think this is a great example of what happens when that does happen. So raise your hand if you've heard of the Tank Man. I'm glad most people have, but if you haven't, this is an iconic example of rebellion against the Chinese Communist Party. It was popularized all across the world just because of the bravery of the man in front of the tank. And it was heavily censored in China. You can go to Baidu and search this up, and basically nothing about this will ever pop up. And obviously, since DeepSeek is a product from China, if you ask it about this, it will tell you nearly nothing, right? So this again ties into how important it is to have a diverse group of people determine what the constitution of an AI is, or else you end up with a very harmful constitution. So, yeah. But aside from that, what do you guys think, discuss in your groups, what do you guys think is the biggest challenge to implementing constitutional AI? Like, yeah, you're
stopping people from getting around it. It's pretty like early on in ChatGPT days where you can say hey, don't do this.
I agree. We'll get more into it later.
Yeah, who you ask really kind of depends, I guess. Like, my morals might be different from everybody else's morals. You can't really have one set of morals to spread a whole concept. Right.
It's like it's very and there's so many different thoughts everyone has about everything. It's very hard to determine whether you have a bias, whether one opinion is biased or not. You know what I mean? By the data set.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We'll get more into it.
An access
Then first place. Like, what was it? I was meant to tweet. It was like Facebook.
What are you guys thinking?
Just having a fear,
Is possible?
As unbiased.
Yeah. Well, what do you guys think is the biggest challenge in doing that?
Probably just government censorship.
I think setting the laws or principles for the constitution that AI develops
Fair.
Because I feel like I'm not 100% sure if this is true, but aren't the constitutions like set by like the programmers themselves? Because I feel like
Basically,
yeah, I don't think
other
that's-
people in the company, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's like diverse. Like, I don't think those are like the right people to be like setting. I don't think they're like experts when it comes to that type of stuff. So I don't think they should be the ones like setting.
Yeah.
rules.
I think they're set by the employees. Something like an AI. I mean, the Constitution is set by the
Yeah.
That's totally fine.
Yeah, it's 10, 15 people in San Francisco should determine what an LLM the entire world uses, right?
Yeah.
They each determine the principles of that. So yeah, I agree with you.
Hey, can you? Yo, can you hear me? All right. Everybody, clap your hands if you can hear me. So, yeah. Can you guys first of all share any of your responses on what you think the biggest challenge is in implementing constitutional AI? It's fine. We'll get more into it. But if you could answer this, we can go deeper into it. I mean, I agree.
That's not it. Maybe it'll come up. Maybe, I don't know. Can I open it? It's okay. I mean, I feel like it has it. So.
We'll cut it off. 6:55. Yeah, well, I think I'll cut it. So like I'll start talking now first, right? Like, okay, more here.
All right. So I see one big word there, aside from Diddy, which I'm going to ignore. But bias, and to be entirely honest, I think bias sums up nearly most of the other responses in here. I mean, they I believe are subsets of bias. So, yeah, let's. 1 second. So yeah, we do have to. I think we can all agree that we have to implement an AI that isn't biased. But do you guys think that the constitutional AI can be relied upon once we do implement it? If we want, we can just do a raise of hands here, or we can still do the Mentimeter. So I see a lot of people putting in depends. So anyone want to share what they think it depends on? Yeah.
It can get like, I feel like if there's too many rules for it to like rely on, it can start getting like too rigid and like reach like a point where like you can't decide one rule that's more important than another one, and like if those two things conflict, like if two different rules conflict, then it's not going to know what to do.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's really hard to. It's a tough challenge on which one of the characteristics of the Constitution the AI should prioritize if there's a conflict, a trade-off between two, and.
I was thinking, like, it can be relied on for some information, like general information. I assume wouldn't, like, go against the constitutional AI, but when it gets to, like, more political information or, like, restricted information,
Mhm.
it could end up just saying, like, I'm not allowed to talk about this, and then
Right.
you can't rely on it for some, like, higher up information.
Fair. More sensitive information?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah?
I think the reason I would say no, at least, would be because if you ask a question that's pretty much perfectly normal and it starts kind of withholding parts of that because it goes against it but doesn't tell you that, you won't know whether or not that information is being held back or not.
Right. It can affect honesty. And I agree with you guys. And we all agree that the DeepSeek constitution is pretty biased and not one that we want. But regardless, it is still a constitution. And I think this is a great example of why constitutional AI can't be relied upon. So, as we know, DeepSeek doesn't like it when you talk about Tiananmen Square. But with a prompt injection attack, with a bit of a clever rephrasing of the sentence, it tells you literally everything you might want to know about it. Not only does it tell you everything about Tiananmen Square, when you ask one entity that was on the good side, it says it's the protesters. So the CCP wouldn't be very happy with this. And I mean, this seems pretty funny right now because, you know, it's funny to bypass CCP propaganda. But imagine if this were a more sensitive topic, right? And if someone finessed ChatGPT into giving it information on how to commit crimes, right? So this is a counter-argument as to why constitutional AI cannot be fully trusted yet, because there are still ways around it, right? And I wanted to bring up a somewhat, like, initially seemingly unrelated example about AI. So this is from the CFAR10 dataset. It's a image. So this is an image classification network. These are multiple, actually, trying to classify 3 different images, right? After they've been very well trained and have like a higher than 90% accuracy. As you can see, with very high confidence, the networks guess something that is entirely wrong, right? And that is all because of a tiny pixel that you can see somewhere in the image that's completely different. As humans, we don't even like see the difference, right? But in AI, it can completely screw it up. So I wanted to ask you guys, why does AI why do you think this is significant? What does this say even about LLMs? I mean, we don't have to do the Mentimeter. I mean, yeah, we can just have a raise of hands, honestly. All right, let's do the Mentimeter. So just think about what the AI misidentifying, what it says about machine AI systems in general instead of just image processing networks. Yeah, so I agree with like the biggest word in the middle, which is unreliable. And I feel like by the way, the earlier example is called the 1 pixel attack. And I feel like it's a good example to prove that all machine learning models inherently are non-deterministic systems. You cannot ever be 100%, you cannot pinpoint at what point the model will fail to give the desired output, which is a good argument as to why constitutional AI cannot be relied upon. Because like the 1 pixel attack, there could be just a certain prompt which triggers terrible output, and it's very hard to know what it might be or how to stop it, even after training. So yeah, discuss amongst yourself, like, how do you think constitutional AI is going to shape AI development, and do you think it'll affect AGI? Discuss amongst your groups.
What
trained data, but it's been on its own trained data and has its own, almost like a concept where it can think by itself.
That is true.
Because it would be able to do everything inside the realms of what
Artificial intelligence.
Yo, what are you thinking?
Exactly. Yeah. Certain topics.
I don't really know, to be honest.
Fair.
I think constitutional AI will make training or developing AGI a lot more time consuming, but I feel like it's worth the extra resources, and that's the one. I don't think it'll actually make the model less helpful, because I think if you basically Anthropic release benchmarks of regular Claude versus like constitutional Claude, and it was marginal differences at best, So I just think it'll take more resources, but screw well.
That makes sense.
They're not gonna